Now, tomorrow evening, the 14th Parliament will open against the backdrop of a crisis fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic. President Halimah Yacob will deliver a speech before MPs debate on it a week later. Now, to get hints of what's to come, we decided to do an exercise. We scrolled through the official records and the words that the clouds generated from the past 13 presidents' addresses will be reflected here. The bigger the word or the font, the more times it was mentioned in the speech. So let's have a look. The first address in 1965 was focused on existential issues. Words like independent and security were prominent. Now, against the backdrop of a global oil crisis and the Cold War in the 70s, well, what do you find? Well, you find words like income as well as economy and communist and West, reflecting the global tussle of ideologies. Now, moving to the early 80s, more focus began to be placed on the economy. So you found words like labor and economy on similar footing as armed forces and citizens. Now, from the mid-80s, aspirational goals were at the forefront, seen in the use of words like society and achieve. Bread and butter issues like healthcare, housing and education took center stage in the 90s, with the word schooling dominating. But following the September 11th crisis, the 2002 Parliament opened with a strong preoccupation with the economy. And this carried on into 2006 when words like workers, people and growth reflected a focus on relevance of the global economy. The narrative shifted again in 2011 and 2016 with words like home, family, build and society, perhaps reflecting a sign of the times. Now, what about the MPs' debates? Well, aspirational topics like education and schools turned up much earlier, from 1968, together with concerns of workers and the labour force. In 1989, the debate roared over ideology and the values of the nation. In 1997, MPs brought up Singapore's relations with Malaysia over the price of water. Now, into the 2000s over there, the economy and social issues were foremost on MPs' minds, much like the presidential address, with the last set of debates in 2016 focusing on the future of Singapore. So what about 2020? CNA spoke with several first-time MPs to find out.
COVID-19 has cast a long shadow on 2020, particularly on the jobs front. So it's an issue Tanjong Pagar MP-elect Alvin Tan will focus on in his maiden speech.
We have schemes like Skills Future, right? And Singaporeans are also learning new skills. But how then do you ensure that the skills, number one, are relevant to the jobs? Number two, how do you ensure that employers themselves know that you possess these skills? And how do employers themselves also know that you are able to execute on these skills almost immediately?
It's a topic that resonates with fellow MP-elect Ng Ling Ling. The former Health and Social Services sector veteran is paying close attention to the mature workforce.
I think support for job redesign must also look into the softer aspect of work inclusivity of more senior workers. I hope to make suggestions at Parliament that there can be more partnerships to strike between social services, business federations and companies to shape the workplace culture and HR practices as we go forward to sustain stronger senior employment.
Non-constituency MP Leong Man Wai of the Progress Singapore Party also says his immediate priority would be jobs and ensuring Singaporeans have the skills to take them up. In particular, he's concerned about the Singaporean core, after new data from the central bank showed the majority of senior management in the entire financial sector here were foreigners.
The balance between the foreigners and the Singaporeans in the jobs market, I think need a lot of rework. We have to rework the balance. Okay. Recent days, there are already a lot of information that came out, okay, which really set us quite worried about the job situation in Singapore. I think that is something that we really have to look into and see how to rectify in the shortest possible time.
Other speeches will champion issues such as social cohesion and inclusion.
This has been made clearer during COVID-19 as well. How do we ensure that that Singaporeans within the sandwich class, those who have parents that they are looking after as well as starting families of their own, and this is something that's very close to the heart of my generation, can continue to participate in the growth of Singapore, can continue to have aspirations, and how do we achieve it?
The Workers' Party, which has 10 seats in Parliament, didn't respond when asked about its immediate priorities in the House. The debates on the President's address will start on the 31st of August.